The Boy Scouts of America is considering a policy change to allow local troops to admit openly gay scouts and scoutmasters. I'm Marcus Mabry for the New York Times. The Supreme Court ruled in a 2000 landmark decision that a private organization like the Boy Scouts was allowed to exclude gay members. The case was brought by James Dale, an openly gay scoutmaster who was dismissed by his troop after it learned of his sexual orientation. But now, 13 years later, the Scouts are considering a change. Mr. Dale is here now, along with Evan Wolfson, the attorney who argued his case before the Supreme Court. Thank you both for being here.
Good to be with you.
James, let me start with you. Are you surprised by the fact that the Scouts are considering this policy change?
I'm surprised that it's taken the Boy Scouts 13 years since the Supreme Court to take another look at their policy, which still discriminates.
Evan, is there a legal reason to explain this change, this consideration?
Well, the Supreme Court in 2000 in James's case said that the Boy Scouts have a right to discriminate, but they didn't say it is right to discriminate. And what's happened since James's case is that parents, kids, corporations, cities, the public have said to the Scouts, we don't agree with this policy. This is wrong. And the Scouts are finally now trying to get in step with a public that has moved far beyond, and with their own members who never voted for this policy in the first place. This is not about them being forced to do this by the law. This is about them being forced to do it in order to stay with where today's youth are and where America's understanding of fairness is.
As you said, one thing we've seen is some Scout staff and former Scouts and Eagle Scouts coming out and saying, in fact, I'm LGBT and I feel discriminated against. Let's listen to one of those voices and what they have had to say on YouTube right now.
Here we go. Hi, my name is Derek. I've served 10 years on the Mattawee Summer Camp branch staff, working my way up from outdoor skills instructor all the way to program director. And I am gay.
Do you think people like James, like Derek Nance, are actually making a difference and coming out and saying what they're saying?
I think, of course, they make a difference. I think that it's a horrible position the Boy Scouts are doing to young people, making them choose between being true to themselves and lying to an organization. I think that the Boy Scouts are doing so much damage, and the policy that they should be reviewing next week should be one of no discrimination, not just a compromise position, which is what they're debating now. They need to go full force and make sure that they're not harming any more children.
And next week, it's a meeting of the National Executive of the Boy Scouts. Are they behind this change, do you think? I mean, they're local troops. There's also a national executive. Who do you think is behind the actual policy consideration?
My gut tells me that the leadership in Texas didn't start this. I think it's the board of directors, chairmen like people from AT&T, and corporations that solicit gay and lesbian employees. They want the best possible talent, whether they're gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. So I think that kind of put the Boy Scouts leadership, the paid executives in Texas, in a difficult position. I think their hand was forced. But I think the policy they put forward just the other day doesn't go far enough.
Do you think there's a possibility, though, now of creating a kind of divided scouting movement in the U.S., where you have red state scouts and blue state scouts?
Well, interestingly enough, the two recent presidential candidates, Obama and also Mitt Romney, were both against this policy. Romney, the Republican candidate, was even a member of the Boy Scouts executive board, and he was against this policy. So I think it's moved beyond red and blue. I think this is about America and what's right for America.
You say that the Boy Scouts have not gone far enough yet. What do you intend to do, or is there anything that the supporters of going farther intend to do to make them go farther? And are you afraid of a backlash?
I think when the Boy Scouts had an anti-gay policy, when they brought about this anti-gay policy in the 90s and with the Supreme Court decision in 2000, it was top-down. I think if they're going to have a non-discrimination policy, it should be top-down as well. They shouldn't just kick the can down the road.
Evan, do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. Look, permission to discriminate as a policy is better than mandatory discrimination, but what it still does is bring kids, gay and non-gay, into an organization that's teaching it's okay to discriminate. And that's not what Scouting is about. Scouting says it's open to all boys. There should be no asterisk. It should be open to all without discrimination, and they should teach the values of respect, standing up for one another, diversity, and doing the great things that Scouting can offer. And I agree with James, and I think the pressure will not stop from within, as well as from companies and others, until they go to a clear policy of non-discrimination.
Is there a role for the Supreme Court to see here in reversing its former decision or not? Is that...
Well, the Supreme Court did get it wrong 5-4 in 2000, but the good news here is that We may have lost the case 5-4, but we've won the cause. America has come to understand this is wrong, and parents and members of Scouts and supporters of Scouts are the ones who are speaking out, and that's why this change is happening. The world has changed since 2000 in the case. The military no longer discriminates. The president, who's the honorary chair of the Boy Scouts, clearly does not support discrimination. Parents have spoken with their feet. Companies have spoken with their dollars. The scouting organization is scrambling to get in touch with kids today, and they need to do that by embracing non-discrimination across the board.
And I think what the Supreme Court did was they pushed the decision back down to the people. They pushed it down to people like Derek. They pushed it down to my mom and dad. Whether people want to be associated with an organization that discriminates. I think the past 13 years have told us America doesn't want to be on the side of discrimination.
All right, it's a movement and a change we'll keep watching. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
That's all for now. We'll be back with more live coverage throughout the day on nytimes.com. Stay with us right here. I'm Marcus Mabry, and thanks for watching the New York Times.